Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here in the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland in lovely Lenox, Alabama, September the 10th, 2021, the day before the big interesting day tomorrow. Okay, more on that later. Comments on comments tonight and question and answer time. We're at Dinosaur Adventureland in Lenox, Alabama. Ken Hovind official Dinosaur Adventureland. We believe God made the world in 6 days. That's what he said he did. In 6 days, the Lord made heaven and earth. I mean, he wrote it on a rock with his finger. We believe that's true. And we think evolution is dumb, dangerous, idiotic. It's actually a mental illness. Do you believe you come from a rock? We're here to help. We really are here to help. Come visit. We've had a lot of people take the tour all over the place. 182 baptized so far. Feed you, house you, put you up. Take you to all our tours around here. The Science Center, that's our dining hall. Pretty cool. We can go out the outside tour, which I give and love to do. We have different side-by-sides we give tours on. Take the real tour and the Science Center tour, which you can see online, and the farm tour. Playground tour, not done yet. Working on it. It's all been built by volunteers, donations. Come on, we have all kinds of science lessons we teach with a spiritual application. There's our cows and our miniature cows, miniature ponies, our donkeys we got here. How many different kinds of animals do we have? A lot. Yeah, well, a lot. Yeah, a bunch. A bunch, try to be grapes. A bunch. Animals. Anyway, like the lady said, look at that bunch of cows. The farmer said, you mean herd? She said, of course I've heard of cows. There's a bunch of them over there right now. Never mind. Okay. Come try our satellite dishes and see our quince tree and learn all the lessons around here. It's really fun. If you haven't taken the outside tour, you need to go. 1 mile north of Lenox, Alabama, which is north of Pensacola, about 70 miles. Come on down, get baptized in our lake if you've been saved. And visitors tonight, don't see any new folks here, no visitors. Come join our 777 club. See, I like what they're doing. Stay open for free. Just and make any checks to CSE, Creation Science Evangelism. Okay, people here first get first option. If you got something you want to discuss or comments or items of interest, then those watching live get second option. And posted comments. I got a bunch of cool posted comments I'm anxious to get to. And then mailed in questions. We haven't got to them in about 20 years, so sorry. Just see. Please keep in mind, cursing or profanity will get you banned from the channel. So will comments that are not on topic. Excessive comments, if you want to blabber, 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 get your own channel, okay? This is our channel. We can ban anyone we feel like just for any reason we want. Simple enough. All right, let's see. Comments here first? Yes, sir.
I just have a question. When Jesus healed, I can't remember which of the demon-possessed guys that he healed. He healed one of them, and then after he was healed, he asked them if I could follow you, but he said, no, go tell everybody about the miracle.
That is a strange one, yes. Can I follow you? I'd have to look that up. Matthew 12, I think. I don't remember which one.
I think it was Matthew.
Yeah. I don't know why I told him that.
Yeah, because the rich guy, he's like, sell everything and follow. I was just curious.
Yeah.
What's
check Matthew Henry commentary. He'll have a commentary. Okay. He'll have a comment on that. Okay. Other questions on the board here?
Willpower. I have one here, if you can read.
Let's see. Questions. How do you explain the relative ages of mountains? For example, why weren't the Sierra Nevadas eroded as much as the Appalachian? Actually, we'll be covering that tonight based on another question we're getting here in a few minutes. Hey, come in. The mountains around the world are several different kinds of mountains, fold mountains, block mountains, etc. They would have formed during different stages of the flood. And Psalm 104 says the mountains arose, the valley sank down, the water ran off. How fast the water runs off would determine if it's going to be rapidly cut erosion. If it's running off quickly, you make steep canyons, and how long it's had time to dry. There are a lot of factors involved in the rock. And we'll cover some of that tonight. I cover a lot more on video number 6 of my seminar series. But thank you for the gift there, Willpower. Thank you. Let's see. All right, questions. Great show, Kent. Had me laughing again. This is from the Whack an Atheist I did Wednesday night. Yes, it's fun to laugh at evolutionists. Jerry says, yeah, we're laughing at you, Kent. Oh, okay, go ahead. It's fine. But why don't you come debate me, Jerry? Come November 24th for the debate. Take you on. You can join the crowd, okay? Ezekiel, yes, it's funny to laugh with Kent at evolutionists. I agree. Okay, who was that? Has made this comment a bunch of times on here. So who was that? We're going to answer your question finally. So where did the 1.085 billion cubic miles of water go for you global flood? I think you meant your, but that's okay. If it was still here, because we would still be underwater still. Did New Orleans flood a couple times in the last 10 years? Is it still underwater? Does water ever run off into lower places? Who was that? Okay. And the equation, 4 pi times radius of Earth squared, you're right, 4 pi squared r, 4r squared pi, is the height of Mount Everest in mountains, times the height of mountain. Well, you have the right formula to find the surface area of a sphere, okay? 4 pi r squared times the 4 pi r squared times the radius. That is the radius, okay. But you're assuming that the water had to go up over Mount Everest and come back down, like Mount Everest was there at the time. I think the mountains formed after the flood because of the earth being busted up. I'll share with you that in a minute. See, I can do math. Can you show me your equation that explains where all that water went? There's only 344 million cubic miles of water on Earth. So a total of 1.4 billion cubic miles were needed for your flood. Again, you just don't get it. You make up a straw man and then tear it down and think, wow, look at that, I won. Okay, here we go. The Bible says, knowing this first, there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust, and saying, where's the promise of his coming? Since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, now read this carefully, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. How can the earth be out of the water and in the water? We might want to study that verse. The scoffers are ignorant of the creation, what it was like. The second thing they're ignorant of is the flood. God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And he tells us later, the fowl, the birds, fly in the firmament. So there used to be water above the firmament. He made the firmament where the birds fly and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. The Bible clearly teaches there was water somehow above the atmosphere. I think a couple-inch layer of ice, super cold ice held up by the magnetic field or air pressure would suffice to answer the question. The Bible says the earth is the Lord's. He founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Wait a minute. Was the earth built on top of the water? Looks like it. Psalm 33. He gathered the waters as of the sea together as a heap. He layeth up the depth in storehouses. The word depth is always a reference to the oceans or the deep part of the sea. The sea was stored up in storehouses. I believe the earth, most of what's now in our oceans, was inside the crust of the earth. There's still a lot of water in the crust of the earth. It comes squirting up in geysers by the millions all over the mid-Atlantic ridge and other places. Okay, thermal vents, okay? He stretched out the earth above the water, Psalm 136. So, Hovind theory, there was a canopy of ice a couple inches thick, maybe 10 miles up, squeezing all the air down into 10 miles. The air now, it goes out 40, 50, 60 miles, depending how you want to define where it ends. And then there's a layer of air, then there's a layer of dirt to stand on, the crust of the earth, and then water under the crust of the earth. There is still enormous amounts of water in the crust of the earth. That's why we have, thermal vents and geysers and stuff like that. Okay, that's where most of the flood water came from. We don't sell In the Beginning by Walt Brown, do we? Can you?
Can't get it. It's not published anymore.
Oh, is it online?
That I don't know.
Walt Brown, In the Beginning. Find his book if you can. It's great. I got a couple copies in here. Okay, so they're ignorant of the flood. Before the flood, the Bible says the people lived to be 900 plus. That's the age of the dinosaurs and all the giant creatures that they find fossilized. Fossil dragonflies, 25, 30-inch wingspan on a dragonfly. Yeah, that was before the flood when things were different. So they're ignorant of the creation. They're ignorant of the flood. The Bible says the fountains of the great deep were broken up. During Noah's flood, the water that was under the fault lines everywhere. There's one off. There's a fault line out there. It's not my fault, but it was the same day where all the fountains of the great deep broken up. I believe the earth cracked like an eggshell for whatever reason. One theory is that a meteor hit the earth and cracked the crust and made the geysers come out everywhere. A cubic foot of rock weighs about 160 pounds, depending on what type of rock, I understand. 10 miles of rock would put 8.5 million pounds of pressure per square foot on that water. Once it finds a crack to shoot through, it's 30 tons per square inch, 6,000 psi. You dealt with stuff in the military. What's the highest pressure they got in our military for the?
Like tires and stuff.
Well, for anything. I mean, for the hydraulic stuff like that. I mean, they get up a couple thousand psi, but not 30,000. No, nowhere close. Okay. 60,000. That would launch rocks out into space. Water shooting up along those cracks would erode the sides and stuff would be launched up. So the earth, no question, is busted up into plates. I agree. I think that's where the water came out at the time of the flood. So the water that was under the crust came to the top and the crust would sink in. The earth is covered by water for the time of flood. So the Bible clearly teaches it was a global flood. Why build a boat if it wasn't? And Jesus believed and taught the flood was global. Jesus said in Luke 17, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives till they were given in marriage, until the day Noah entered into the ark and the flood came. So Jesus, flood, you want to call him a liar, you can, okay? There are several theories about what caused the flood. I share my theory on video number 6 about that. The earth had water under the crust. He founded it upon the seas. He laid up the depth in storehouses. He stretched out the earth above the water. So the earth had the water underneath. When it came to the top, the crust would sink in a little bit, however much water escaped, probably different in different areas, and the crust would sink in, causing it to wrinkle up. It's another theory, another factor that would be involved. Let's see, 10%. Not only does Earth have a lot of visible water, oceans cover 70% of the surface. 70% covered by water still today. So you asked, where did the water go? Have you ever heard of the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean? Go take a look. They're big. Let's see. But another 10 oceans worth of water may be entombed deep inside the earth. Discover magazine. Interesting. So the fountains of the deep were broken up. In Job, he said, who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth as if it had issued out of the womb? So the sea came shooting out, just like when a woman has a baby. I delivered one of mine at home. What a mess that was. When the water breaks, get out of the way, you know. So it issued out of the womb. He break up from, let's see, you can read Job 38 for yourself. I want to get to something else. So the earth has cracks all over the place. San Andreas Fault, Hayward Fault, New Madrid Fault. And some of them are still moving. I agree. There are still earthquakes, still mountain building things going on. Still water trapped under the crust of the earth, or we would not have the tens of millions of hydrothermal vents. Somebody made a map of the world without the water. Actually, the vertical exaggeration here is incredible. If you removed all the water from the planet, got out and took a picture of it, you couldn't find any of the continents. You wouldn't be able to find them. The earth is so smooth. If you shrank it down to this size, it would be so smooth, you wouldn't be able to feel the Himalaya mountains or Mount Everest. For these globes, they have to greatly exaggerate the vertical, just so you can say, oh, there's a mountain range there. But it's greatly exaggerated for that scale. Okay. The total salt water on the earth would be a dot that size. The total fresh water would be that much. If the earth is really close to real smooth and round compared to its size, okay? So when they make these maps and stuff, they always have to, like I said, vertical exaggeration greatly. I mean, on an 8,000-mile earth, what's a 5-mile mountain? Not much. I mean, it's like the thickness of the paper compared to the globe. So Earth is smoother than a billiard ball, according to World Pool Billiard Association. I used to play pool a lot when I had to give it up when they outlawed asbestos. Do you remember when they outlawed asbestos? Man, it was years ago. Because I played so fast the ball would catch fire. I had to use special asbestos balls. You believe me, don't you, brother? Randy, you believe me? You don't believe me neither? Okay, never mind. All right.
I believe you.
You believe me. Thank you, Saban. Okay. Let's see. When equally scaled, Earth is much smoother than a billiard ball. They measured a scratch on a billiard ball compared to the highest mountains, Mount Everest and the Mariana Trench. So the scratches on the billiard ball are bigger than the mountains and then the Mariana Trench. And okay, who cares? Now there are there's articles both ways on this. Some say, oh no, it's not. But the idea is it's awfully close to the size of perfect smooth. The Earth is, okay? Smoother than a billiard ball. So there are certainly mountain building things going on. The plates of the Earth are moving around. If they come together, you may push it up in the middle, a mountain building experience at the convergence zone. There's also subduction zones where pieces go under another one, which lifts something up. Okay. Sometimes it's squeezed from both sides if the crust of the earth is moving around, and that will cause wrinkled mountains. Interesting. Let's see. The deepest Mariana Trench, 36,000 feet to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Here's what Florida would look like if you lowered the water just a little bit. I mean, out there at the edge of the escarpment where it drops off, it's only 400 or 500 feet deep, 600 feet. I mean, that's from here to the road. It's not that much. The deepest part of the Gulf of Mexico, I mean, the deepest part, and that's a huge body of water, is only 17,000 feet. Well, that's only 3 miles deep. What's 3 miles from here to where Winston Bell merges in up here with our County Road 7? I mean, that's the deep. Yeah, that's the deepest part. Mount Everest is 5 miles high. You could not hide Mount Everest in the whole Gulf of Mexico. It would be sticking up above the water by 2 miles. So just interesting thing to consider. Okay, so let's see. So where did the water go? Okay, who was that? I'm going to answer the question for you. It is still here on the earth. It is in the oceans. The let's see, did I thought I had, oh no, I got to go to seminar part 6. There it is, slide number 212. I knew I had a bunch more in here. Let's see, seminar 6, Alt DV 212. There. If the earth were reduced to a 12-inch globe, all the water in the oceans would not even fill a tablespoon. If today's oceans average 12,000 feet deep, if the earth were smooth, the water would be 8,000 feet deep everywhere. I've been to, I think, all the oceans and traveled a lot. Mount Everest, tallest mountain in the world, is covered with seashells and clams. I don't think the water was over Mount Everest. I think Mount Everest was under the water, and the mountains rose up after the flood or during the last part of the flood. 2 miles above sea level, they found oysters 11.5 feet. Today, the world's record biggest oyster is not even 14 inches. 11-foot oysters? There's some people standing by giant 500 fossilized oysters, bigger than the world's record. And all over the world, they find these clams like this that are petrified in the closed position. We have hundreds of them here, don't we?
Nope.
Yeah, a bunch of them, okay. On the top of the highest peaks like Mount Everest, it's possible to find 400-million-year-old fossils. That's a bunch of baloney. Now, the creatures and shells that were deposited at the bottom of shallow tropical seas. Whoa. Now the fossils are exposed at the roof of the world. Well, let's see. So, marine sediments and fossils on Mount Everest. Nautilus shells on top of Mount Everest. Who'd have thunk it? Well, Mount Everest is a little ways from the beach, first of all, okay? And it's pretty high, about 500 miles, 450 miles to the beach. Clams don't climb mountains very well. And they don't traverse over the land very well. And when clams die, they open. So to find fossilized closed clams, they had to be buried quickly and buried alive. Did you know the Earth is turning at this latitude? What's the latitude? I should have looked up the latitude of Mount Everest. We can figure it out. It doesn't matter anymore. I lost interest. But we can figure out the latitude of Mount Everest and the speed it's turning. Here in Lenox, Alabama, we're turning 886 miles an hour right here, right now, that way. If the moon was holding a bump of water called the high tide while we're spinning under it, that water goes up, down with the high. The moon just sees the high tide, but we would see the water go up, down. It would be every 6 hours, except the moon's moving once a month, so 6 hours, 12.5 minutes. We learn real science at Dinosaur Adventureland. Anyway, so the moon is holding that bump of water, which means, and if there were no continents to interrupt it, the tide could become harmonic. It'd be a 200-foot tidal change on a liquid-covered Earth. Well, if the water's coming up 200 feet, where's all that water coming from to fill that bump? Sideways. Moon's gravity from 250,000 miles away is dragging the water in from the sides at the same speed the Earth is turning, which means the water's coming into the bump here in Lenox, Alabama at nearly 900 miles an hour. So if the water's coming up 200 feet and coming in at 900 miles an hour, it's going to make a layer of mud 50 feet thick in 10 seconds and bury the clam beds. And when they wake up dead, they can't even open. And that's why you find petrified closed clams by the billions. Petrified fossilized eggs. Eggs? Fossilized, yeah. Petrified jellyfish. Soft tissue jellyfish. Let's see. Desert, why would whales be found in the desert? Well, you'd almost think there was a flood if you didn't know better, unless the whale decided to go for a walk, and back when they had legs, you know. All the fountains of the deep were broken up. Earth is spinning like it. I think something hit the Earth, caused it to wobble for a few thousand, maybe a few hundred, few thousand years. And the North Pole is still wobbling a little bit. Today, we're tilted off almost 23.5 degrees. So, Hovind theory. I'll cover all that in video number 6. Let me get up where I want to go here. So, if the crust of the Earth is broken up and water's escaping from underneath through these cracks, well, that's going to widen the cracks, allowing the basalt layer underneath to bulge up inside, causing the crust of the Earth to slide away. All over the world, they find wrinkled mountains, indicating they were pressed from the sides. But atheists, evolutionists, listen carefully, focus, Daniel-san. These layers, when they look at them real close, are not fractured. All of the layers were soft when they all bent at the same time. All the layers were laid down in one big flood in the days of Noah. So water came shooting out, would kill everything within some effective radius of the crack. Come the hot water coming out, everything within 20 miles or 50 miles or whatever would die till the temperature gets dissipated, diffused. So let's see. Geyserite around the opening of the Lone Star Geyser in Yellowstone. This is a diatom, itty bitty tiny creature. You can't see them without a really good microscope. Diatoms accumulate slowly at the bottom of the ocean. They say it takes about 1,000 years to get an inch of diatoms. And diatoms are all over the ocean by the quadrillions, quintillions. They dig it up and use it as diatomaceous earth. Anybody ever seen diatomaceous earth powder? Extremely fine, silky stuff, okay? It's used for swimming pool filters, detergents, fertilizers, insulation, soundproofing, paper finishes, bricks, paint thickeners, oil, dry, insecticides, polishes, cat litter, paint removers, and scores of other things. Well, I went to the largest diatomaceous earth quarry in the world in Lompoc, California. Or Lompoc, population 40,000 some time ago. Okay. Lompoc is not too far from the San Andreas Fault. I mean, that's where the water came squirting out, I believe, one of the thousands of places where the hot water came out. There's this company down there called Sea Light Corporation. I said, can you give me the tour of the place? They took me around. Giant mountains made out of pure diatomaceous earth. They go in there with giant machinery and dig it out and sell it over the world. It goes for hundreds of miles and is often hundreds of feet thick. Now hold it. It takes 1,000 years to get an inch of this stuff today. Not if there was a thermal shock from the crust of the earth being broken open and hot water coming out, then it would kill all the diatoms within 100 miles in seconds, and they would all snow to the bottom. At the diatomaceous earth quarry in Lompoc, a remarkable discovery was made in 1976. Workers at the dicalcite division uncovered the fossil skeleton of a baleen whale with trillions of fish fossils around it. The whale fossil is standing on end in the quarry and is about 80 feet long. Now, the layers were tilted, and the whale was laid almost perpendicular to the layer. So actually, the thickness of the whale is the problem, not the length of the whale. But still, an 80-foot whale would be, what, 8 or 10 feet thick? If it takes 1,000 years to get an inch of diatoms, did the whale lay there for a million years waiting for the stuff to form around him? So I said, guys, can I have some of your diatomaceous earth? They said, it goes for hundreds of miles. It's hundreds of feet thick. Take all you want. I got some big slabs of diatomaceous earth containing hundreds of fish fossils packed in there like sardines. Some of them were sardines, okay? Do we have that in our science center still, the diatomaceous earth blocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just Google diatomaceous earth. Why would you have all these fossils? I think they were buried rapidly. It's an extremely common fossil. You can buy them all over the place. We got dozens in our museum here. The chalk cliffs of Dover, same way. How did chalk accumulate so quickly to make these 300-foot tall cliffs? It's called the Cretaceous age. Evolutionists use Cretaceous for chalk as make up one of their layers names. All those layers are the same age, by the way. No such thing as a geologic column. Calcite. Anyway, the waters prevailed. Let me get up where I want to go here. Layers can form very quickly. You see the little sand art thing? If the water's moving sideways, like it was being pulled in and out of the tidal bulge, the sideways moving water would do multiple layers at the same time. Which means if the layers are forming sideways, not this way, then you could have a fossil up here that's actually older than a fossil down here. Your whole geologic column is stupid. Doesn't exist anywhere except the textbook. Stop teaching that stuff. There's no such thing as a Jurassic period. No such thing. Underwater landslides would do enormous damage, and turbidity currents, they're called. 1929, the transatlantic cable was cut by an underwater turbidity current going 70 miles an hour. It covered 40,000 square miles. That's about the size of Alabama. That's a big current. And the water would be swirling around. Lots of times, fossils are found. Back is arched, like they were trying to swim or escape from mud or something like that. Fully articulated many times. I mean, by the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming, the concentration of fossils was remarkable, like piled in like logs in a jam. Here they are in the swimming position. Hoofed mammals found in Nebraska, petrified in the swimming position. It must have got buried quickly, like a flood. In the Karoo Formation, there are 800,000 million. That's 800 billion animals in the Karoo Formation, fossils. Yeah. They found remarkable concentration of iguanodon skeletons in a Belgian coal mine 1,000 feet below the ground. Wow. Petrified tree stump. This is in Axel Island up in Greenland. There are no trees growing up there. You got a petrified redwood tree. Guys, I think it was there's Axel Island right up there. I think things were different before the flood came. They say, doesn't it take millions of years for things to petrify? No, petrification can take place quickly. Here's a petrified water wheel, petrified log somebody chopped on. Somebody found a petrified log with a fishing reel stuck in it. The wood petrified around the fishing reel, the reel in the rock, you can read about that. Go to Southern Forest World Museum, I called them today. They have a petrified dog in there named Stucky. I said, is it mummified? They said, no, that would be skin wrapped around the bones. It's petrified. I have here mummified dog. You can call them. There's the number, 912, or Heritage Center's next door. Let's see. Call them. They still got it. Stucky. Petrified dog. Chased a coon up a tree, apparently. I called Dr. Baugh today. His secretary said, yeah, they know about the cowboy boot. He didn't have it there, but it's been at their museum many times. Petrified cowboy boot. Well, they sent the boot to the people who make cowboy boots. They said, oh, that's the stitching style we did in the 1980s, I think. Here's a petrified fish in the process of giving birth. Does not take millions of years to give birth. Praise God. Okay. Somebody found a hammer with a handle was petrified. From World War II. Interesting. Marine camp. Petrified handle. Petrified bowler's hat. A petrified crayon a kid sent me one time. Petrified pincushion. Petrified man. Dug up a guy. They buried him when he died, 1881. 8 years later, his wife died, or 14 years later. They dug a hole next to him and found it water soaked in. They said, oh no, Grandpa's in the water. Let's dig him up and bury him somewhere else. So they dug up the coffin after 14 years, and he had turned to stone inside that coffin, petrified in 14 years. Lady, in 1962-year-old lady was found out she had a petrified skeleton of a fetus inside her uterus. She wondered how she'd been pregnant for so long. Baby had turned to stone. Yeah, let's see. I was shocked when they told me I'd been pregnant for so long. 62 years old. Let's see. Petrified fetus, petrified man, 5'7", weighed 356 pounds, turned to stone. My point was, here's petrified sacks of flour. They're in a creation museum up in Arkansas someplace. I think I got Eureka Springs, Arkansas. You can call them. I should have called Johnny's today, if he owns them still. Petrified pickle. That's in our museum right here, other side of this wall. Petrified pickle. Kid sent it to me. He said, Brother Hovind, you want a petrified pickle? I said, yeah, who would not want one of those? Petrified mushroom, petrified acorns. Are they still in there, Damien? The petrified acorns?
They might be. I have to look for them.
Okay, petrified acorn.
We got the display, but I don't know if we have.
Yeah. Ripley's Museum in St. Augustine, Florida. Petrified peanuts cluster. Petrified charcoal briquettes. Petrified coconut. Petrified arm to an octopus. Now that's soft tissue. Petrified jellyfish have been found. Had to be buried quickly. At the Handy Farm Device 1909 magazine, you could buy How to Petrify Your Own Wood. They taught people how to petrify the bottom of your fence post, so the top is still wood. You can nail your fence wire to it, and the bottom is stone, so it doesn't rot in the ground. Petrified teddy bear. That's in our museum right here. Okay. Petrified hat. Petrified coil of rope. Petrified animals died quickly. Answers in Genesis has a great article on that. Let's see. This is from Live Science. At least it was a quick death. Trilobites are common at the Burgess Shale. All the creatures died in one big flood, guys. Okay, enough time. Let's see. His question was not about that, though. This is all on seminar part 6. Where did the water go? Let's see. Right, coming up right here. Cover all the things. Oh, there we go. There it was. There it was. Where did all the water go? Sorry about that. Okay. Average elevation of the land is 2,600 feet, about a half mile. Whole world, about a half mile above sea level. Half mile is halfway to the stop sign in downtown Lenox. That's the average height of the whole world. Average ocean depth is 12,000 feet, 2.3 miles, covering 71% of the planet. So the average is, let's see, if you smoothed out the world, everything would be underwater by about 8,000 feet. We'd all be drowning. 8,810 feet is what this guy said. So to answer your question, if you filled a room 2 feet deep in water, and then you lifted up one end of the building, the water would slide to one side, and now it's deeper on that low side and higher out of the water on the other side. So the water from the flood of Noah is still here. It's in the oceans. The crust of the earth is flexed up and down. Some places came up and made mountains. Other places went down and made oceans. And all the mountain ranges follow the coastlines. So enough on that. Okay, get back to where I wanted to go with other questions. Let's see, where was that? Right here. Let's see, that is slide.
I've got a couple if you're ready.
1, 2, 2. Alt DV. Okay, 1, 2, 2. Let me get caught up here. There. Okay.
Blue.
Thoughts. Layers of polystrate covering each side. Covering each other. There we cover in our video 6 lots of pictures of the petrified trees in the vertical position running through all these layers. One of the biggest hoaxes ever pulled off on humanity is to get them to believe the layers are different ages. That's baloney. That was made up in 1830. It's not true. Okay, most idiotic thing I've ever heard. Noah's flood was just regional. I agree. Why would he build a boat? There are regional floods. I mean, he had 100 years. How far could you move in 100 years? And why bring all the animals on board? I mean, no, it was a global flood. Okay.
Then you wouldn't need to bring birds.
You wouldn't need to bring birds. They could fly away, right? Okay, let's see. Let's get alligators for one of the ponds, and I'll wrestle them for shows. What does the Bible say about slavery? Oh, 2 unrelated questions there. We don't think we want any alligators in our ponds, okay? You can wrestle them if you like, but we don't. I don't want to hear.
We could make boots.
What?
We could make boots out of them.
Make boots out of the skin? Yeah. Let's see. What do you think about slavery? Well, the Bible says if you're going to have a slave, which the cultures of that time just did, okay? We got the same thing in America, much worse. We lock them up in prison. Isn't that slavery? They can't go where they want to go. Yeah. Whole prison system ought to be shut down. So there's an article on slavery. Where did I read that? Don Boys up in Ringgold, Georgia. Talked to Don yesterday or today, this morning. Don is probably 85 now, still doing great, writing articles and preaching all over the place. Fabulous. Ringgold talked to Carl Ball's secretary. He's 86, out giving tours of his place in Texas. I mean, man, I'm going to make it to 100 or die trying. Let's see. So So the question about slavery, I think slavery is wrong, but the Bible didn't say you should do it. But if you're going to do it, then here's the rules. Here's how you treat your slave. So there's just a cultural thing, rather than try to fight that uphill battle. Let's see. Bob writes in, if a Christian cannot lose their salvation, what does John 15:6 mean? Get the reference here and get the exact one. Well, you can lose your life. You can certainly sin to the point where God says, that's it, you're done, come to heaven. We see that in 1 John 5 and in Acts chapter 5. Okay, what was the reference to that? I lost it there, brother. John 15. John 15.
John 15:6.
John 15:6. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire and are burned. Well, he's certainly talking about abide in me, about the vine, for bearing fruit and stuff like that. I don't think you could equate that, though, to going to hell, because there's so many other verses about salvation being eternal. He said, I will give unto them eternal life. Well, if you could lose it later, I guess it wasn't eternal. And if you could lose it, everybody would lose it every day. How many of you have ever gone a whole day, not one sin? Anybody? Everybody would lose it every day. Praise God. Mine's dependent on what Jesus did, not what I did. You ever thought about doing anything about bees in your? I would love to have bees here, okay? A beekeeper from Canada. I have a ton of object lessons. Please, I would love that. We want that badly. Someone told me years ago you have to milk the bees at 4 a.m. And I tried one time. I'll never do it again. I fell off the little stool 5 times and didn't get a drop of milk, and the bee didn't like it at all. So if you know how to do it, please come show me. I could not get any milk out of that bee. I tried. Okay. Layers of polystrates covering each other. Oh, I did that one.
Hold on. I've got one right here.
How did the human population rebound so fast? Genesis puts the Tower of Babel about 150 years after the flood. How did the population regrow to make its constant? Well, if you read the Bible in Genesis 11, after the flood was over, they were still living to be 400 years old. How many kids could you have in 400 years? Let's just say they had 50 kids per family. Okay, one kid every 4 years. What is 50 times 50 times 50 times 50 times 50? Let's see, you're going to do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. Try 50 to the 5th power and see what you get. It's going to be a big number. So I think it's not a problem to have a lot of people in a few hundred years. That would be from the time the last of the 400-year-olds died off was, let's see, about 500 years after the flood. So you got a 500-year period there to really get the population going again. Plus, there's no competition for land. I mean, they had the whole world.
And if you believe in evolution, where are all the people?
Well, yeah, they want to say everybody came from a rock. They're worried about everybody coming from Noah. Guys, I came from a rock. Let's see. What's your understanding about turtles? What defines a turtle? What is their evolution? Well, there is no evolution. Turtles live in the water. Tortoises live on land. Neither one ever stopped growing. We have Turbo the tortoise. We have a bunch of turtles in our lake out there. Did you keep that little bitty green one I gave you? That little, what was that kind? Was that?
It was like a flat shell turtle, but he wasn't eating anything for days, so I let him go.
Okay.
So he just wasn't responding to anything I was giving him.
Well, I don't know how many kinds of turtles there are, probably several hundred, but there's no evolution. I mean, they're still a turtle. Always have been since they were created. Okay, let's see. I got another question here. Radiometric dating. Did I do that? Give me one piece of evidence for evolution that hasn't been debunked already. Go ahead, I'll wait. He says none of it has been disproved. It's still happening. New species. Here we go. Now, and if it's the last time a new species evolved was the Geospiza that evolved 4 years ago. You're absolutely clueless. So hold it. The Geospiza evolved 4 years ago, and this is proof for evolution? The Geospiza is a type of bird. Okay? Now, Charlie Darwin went to the Galapagos Islands and shot all kinds of birds. He didn't like birds because he liked worms. He was a strange fellow. And he saw 14 different kinds of finches on these islands and concluded they might have had a common ancestor. He didn't see any evidence for evolution. It's still a finch. Darwinism is a theory of biological evolution developed by English naturalist. Why don't they call him a preacher? That's what he was. Was Darwin a scientist? You got atheists and evolutionists that pick on my degree. Was Darwin a scientist? He didn't have any science degrees. He had a theology degree. Yeah, okay. Stating that all species of organisms arrive and develop through natural selection. Natural selection works great, but it selects. That's all it does. Increases survival ability to compete, survive, and reproduce. Okay. Let's see. Where did I want to get to? Here. Darwin, at age 22, fresh out of school, couldn't find a job. No church wanted him to be their pastor, and he was kind of lazy bum is what he was. So his dad got him a job to sail around for 5 years. He didn't get any pay, but they fed him. At least they'd feed Charlie, okay? So for 5 years, he sailed around on a boat collecting bugs and birds. And he wrote his book. He read Lyell's book, Principles of Geology, and said that book changed his life. He said, disbelief crept over me at a very slow rate, but at last complete. He began to disbelieve the Bible. He tried to dedicate his book to Charles Lyell for writing his book about the stupid geologic column. As he sailed around the world, he came to these islands out here, Galapagos Islands, and he counted 14 varieties of finches, which is this bird you're saying is evidence for evolution. The beaks of some were bigger than others. Now, the Grants went down there, spent 10 years studying the beaks of the finches, probably a government grant, and they found out during dry years, the beak's a little thicker than during wet years. Okay, it's still a beak, still a finch. Peter and Rosemary Grant are distinguished, extinguished, I'm sorry, for their remarkable long-term studies demonstrating evolution. They did not demonstrate any evolution. They demonstrated natural selection. When it's dry, only the tougher nuts can survive, and the bird have to have a bigger, tougher beak and crack the nuts and eat. The rest of them can't. So nature selected the ones with the weaker beak to die. That's all. Didn't create a beak. Family of these, 228 species of finches, 50 genera, and 3 subfamilies. Let's see, 14 varieties of finches on the islands. Might have had a common ancestor called a bird. Charlie's book, though, said it's a truly wonderful fact that all animals and all plants are related to each other. You can't look at 14 kinds of finches and make that conclusion. So it's a fact. Microevolution, dogs produce dogs, is a fact. We shouldn't call it microevolution. but it's still a dog. I cover all this in video number 4. Let's see. Let me get up to the answer to the question. Cosmic evolution, micro. Excuse me 1 second here. It's been a busy day trying to get ready for all. I got a lot to get ready for. Let's see. Macroevolution. Here we go. Question. Different breeds of domestic animals, different species of, is that called cichlids? Cichlids. Okay, it's a type of fish. Goats' beards and mice and Italian wall lizards prove that evolution happens. Really? Well, let's see. There are 500 species of these little fish. Some are yellow, some are blue, some are red, some are striped, some are not striped. 500 species of fish in just 3 lakes. Oh, okay. Let's see. So do you think those 500 varieties of fish proves we all came from a mosquito or came from an amoeba? How about goats' beards? I looked it up. The only thing I could find was goats' beards. Is that what he's talking about? Some of the goats have different types of beards than others. What does that prove? I don't know. How about mice? Let's see. Most, but not all, of the rodents called mice are members of the rodent subclass, are mouse-like rodents. There are approximately 1,100 species in this enormous group. They might have all had a common ancestor called a mouse. Here we go. The mouse family tree. 7 different subgroups of mice had a common ancestor called a mouse. That does not prove or even help provide evidence that mice are related to pine trees, guys, okay? He said we got evidence from Italian wall lizards. So I looked up, what on earth is this? This proves evolution. The Italian wall lizard is a lizard. Apparently it speaks Italian. I don't know. Mangia porca. Okay, let's see. I think it's Italian. Let's see. Anyway, there's a hybrid zone where some of the coastal transect and the inland transect are mating and producing babies. Oh, no. Yep. There are a whole bunch of different kinds of these Italian wall lizards. They might have had a common ancestor called a lizard. That does not prove or even help provide evidence that lizards are related to whales. Let's see. Some are slightly carnivorous, more carnivorous than others, and others eat more vegetables than others. So because there are some that are more vegetarian than more carnivorous, therefore that's evolution. How many of you have ever met a person that's primarily a vegetarian? They don't like to eat meat at all, just eat vegetables. Okay. So are they a different species of humans? There's quite a few of these lizards. I was shocked to find out there's a bunch of different kinds of lizards. Look at this. Italy fieldwork completed. They proved evolution. There's their proof right there. Kellowell's peppered moth. You have got to be kidding, burnt toast. You think that proves evolution? The peppered moth? They went around and counted the moths on the trees, so they said it was 95% light moths and 5% dark. Then after they started burning coal in the factories, the trees turned dark and they counted the moths and said it was 5% light and 95% dark. Turns out the whole thing was a hoax. They glued dead moths on the trees to take that picture. Yeah, that's a giant scam there. Let's see. Anyway, it's been disproven years ago. Hypothesis explaining replacement of light moths by dark moths. Let's see. Let's read this paragraph right here. When the environment changes, natural selection may favor new traits in a species. One classic example concerns the peppered moth. So they said they burned coal in the factories, the trees turned dark, and the darker moths had a better chance of camouflage and they would survive. The birds couldn't find them to eat them. Sounds reasonable. Still a moth. Didn't change a thing. Black individuals have a dominant allele, and it was rare before 1850. You can read all about it yourself. Tulsa Zoo is still teaching the display. It's proven wrong like 100 years ago. It's still a moth. Introduced the peppered moth in 1955 as evidence for natural selection. Since then, it's appeared in almost every biology text as evidence for evolution. Let's see. Barry Cohen did it in the Nature magazine article he wrote. Let's see. The moth does not rest on tree trunks. Exactly 2 moths have been seen on tree trunks in more than 40 years. So they glued dead moths to the tree to take the picture. Moths have no tendency to choose matching backgrounds. Kellowell's results have not been replicated in later studies. Guys, come on now, let's hear it. The shift in moth population did occur, but took place well before new lichens grew on polluted trees. A parallel shift in moth population occurred in the U.S., but there was no change in lichens. From the peppered moth natural selection kettlewell. Let's see. Peppered moth is a great proof of design. God wants to make sure the moth survives no matter what happens to the environment. It's called planning ahead. Did you know Ford and General Motors put heaters and air conditioners in some of their cars? How many have ever seen one of those? Has both a heater and an air conditioner. That's proof they both evolved from a skateboard or something. I don't know. So let's see. Self-proof we came from a rock. So the evolution of the peppered moth is an evolutionary instance. This is not evolution evidence. Burnt toast, I'm sorry, you're mistaken. Peppered moth and natural selection. Why is the pepper? It would be natural selection if it were true. It'd be a good example of nature selecting one to survive. But they keep this in the textbooks like this is proof for evolution. It's baloney. Peppered moth evolution, absolute baloney. Different breeds of animals, different species. Kettlewell's peppered moth prove how evolution happens. Now, burnt toast, listen carefully. It only proves the original moth population had a gene pool that included dark and light, and that natural selection works fine. It selects, doesn't create anything. That does not prove or even help provide evidence that moths are related to apples. Okay, we've gone a long time. I got plenty more questions here. Any more here?
One more right there.
Okay. Ken, if you ever need security, I'll gladly volunteer my time. Thank you for doing God's work. And well, we have security cameras all over the place, and you could walk right in any farm in Alabama probably, but we would know about it pretty quickly. And then you have to explain why. What would you like? So come on down. William will show you around the place, and we can talk when you get here. Okay, other questions? Let's see. Transitional fossils, fossil record. Forget it. There's no such thing as a fossil record. No such thing. There's a bunch of fossils, but they're not a record. Okay. All right. Get my video series for a lot more on that. You had a question? You wanted to know if worms can yawn? Sabin? Worms can't yawn.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have just one important question.
You have one important question.
Yeah.
Sabin is 7. Go ahead.
What's that SpongeBob boss doing here?
This is a SpongeBob van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I see it?
You're hoping you could play with it?
Yeah.
Okay, here you go. Don't eat it,
Okay.
and put it back when you're done. Okay. All right. Thank you, folks. No Bible study tomorrow, but Sunday morning, come on down, visit 11 o'clock Central Time. We'll see you here. Bye.